Welcome to the Once Blind Podcast. Your host, Carlos.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Once Blind. So, a couple people have asked questions about, how we talk about spiritual abuse here, certain things in the church. They ask, home church, a lot of questions, and I figured I'd make one episode where I can kind of answer them all. Ask about my testimony in the sense of ministry. And it really revolves around a lesson I learned as a child. It was taught to me by my dad. And it's funny because I didn't grow up Christian. My dad knew God, knew about Jesus. My grandmother Catholic, so there was that, which isn't Christianity at all. It's really just make sure you get your catechism and be baptized as a baby, and that's it. There's no practicality in it. There's no expectation of conviction, expectation of living out. Just show up, give money, and that's it. So there was never really religion in my home or in my life except for that at a very young age. But what I was learning, and it took time because I didn't really understand it till I was older, was that while I was going to kindergarten, or actually pre-K first, I walked into this classroom and everyone, these are your friends. I don't know these people, but as a kid, you don't know. Kindergarten, you walk in, go sit down with your friends. Okay, I don't know these people, but you're an adult, and I guess they are. So somewhere around second grade, third grade, I was learning that, I first got moved from one school to another. And as a Hispanic kid, I didn't really get a lot of love at this new school at all. It was pretty shaping of the person that I would be, believe it or not. I think it's what helped me become the animal that I was very into my early 20s. I think that all the hate that I got and just the treatment that I got at such a young age really shaped me to be a very hateful person, angry person. But it was my dad who taught me that the word friend isn't what America, because to him it was America, that was teaching me this, made it out to be. That here in America, everyone's considered your friend. And no, that's not true. My dad would say that friends are not the ones, and I don't know if this translates very well, but no el que se va por el que viene, which is not he who goes, but he who comes. I guess meaning not those that walk out of your life, but those that stay and come into your life. Then, as every normal person does, especially when we grew up, there wasn't really social media. We had AOL, but we didn't have social media as we know it today. That you had to pick wisely who your friends are. One thing I learned is that a friend is someone you can trust with your heart, but you also have to be able to trust them with your back. Because one can be broken, the other one gets stabbed a lot. And those people aren't friends, regardless if they share a classroom or whatever space with you. It's just not what it is. So throughout life, I was learning what friendships are, what friendships are not. That by the time I got to a certain age, I had a lot of associates, a lot of people that I knew me, had conversations. We would hang out, very friendly, but not people that I considered friends. And then there was that close knit of people that I still talk to today. We socialize all the time. In fact, one of you guys know one of my childhood friends. I mean, he's like a little brother to me, even though he's older. Um, we still chat. He's arsenic element. You know, we've known each other since pretty much diapers, like way back. Slept over each other's houses. Actually, he would stay at my house for like weeks at a time. Like legit friend. We still talk. You know, he's trying to get me to grow more plants. But that's someone that through thick and thin. I remember there was a time where we both kind of devered in life and it took us on different paths. And years later, I needed someone and I didn't even dare to call him, but I had no choice. And yeah, he was there at the drop of a dime to help my brother out. Like French, that's friendship. You know, there's a few people like that that I know I can call, and they know they can call me. We may not talk as much as when we were kids. We all have work, family, and so on and so forth. But it's a very, very small handful. You come to know that there are a lot of people who call you when they need you. And that is it. Sad. But those aren't people you consider friends. So the real world teaches you what friends are. I feel bad for today's people because what happens is that now you have social media. And it's a real cool study. You guys can look it up. And in fact, my wife was the one that told me about it. That for a lot of people on their social media, when they get a like or a heart or whatever, it releases dopamine like a drug. So they tend to change who they are to try to get more likes. It's especially women who are who are affected by this a lot more, especially young ladies. They'll go against their character or things that they know to be good character just for the sake of getting another like. They present themselves a certain way because they know that if they're their true selves, they might not get as many likes as if they were more promiscuous. They'll definitely get a lot more likes. And they sell their bodies not even for money, but for likes. So I kind of feel bad for them because these aren't friends, regardless if your friends list says 5,000, right? I think that's the limit. Your friends, they're not friends. They're not. They're not people you can trust. Because here's the thing about social media that a lot of people don't talk about. It has increased the amount of youth hurting themselves or removing themselves from this world because they do something and it clicks and a lot of people like it and a lot of people become your friend or follower or whatever the deal may be, whichever type of social media you're on. But then they do something that goes against the masses and they start losing friends and they start losing likes and now they start getting trolls and hateful comments and they go from the dopamine release of, hey, everybody likes me to now nobody likes me. Now they're depressed and lonely and don't know what to do with themselves. So they hurt themselves. So life is constantly teaching us what are friends? What are family? What are those people? I like the saying where you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. I like to say you may not be able to pick your family, but you can pick who you socialize with. And same for friends. So now to the testimonial part with ministry, because that is very, very important to what I'm about to let you guys in on. I stick to a lot of the spiritual abuse and a lot of the hurt by the church because of how much hurt and backstabbing and spiritual abuse and all these things I've dealt with in the last 14 years of ministry. 14 years in the church. I'm being vulnerable in a sense where I really hate to talk about this and talk about the lessons that I've learned through it or how I've gone through it. I just kind of want to tell people, hey, I've been where you are. let's not let it affect your relationship with Jesus, because for a while, it really did hurt my relationship with Jesus. It really was something that changed even who I am today. So, for those of you that have asked and have wondered, here it is. So, after all that I talked about in the beginning, I, in trying to prove there is no God, came to the realization that I cannot disprove God. So, I started digging in a little bit more. And in digging in, I got plugged into a certain church. That church wasn't where I was going to eventually give my life to Christ, but is where I started reading, and I came to realize again that I can't disprove him. But now I'm finding way more evidences for God than I ever thought existed. Evidence, not ideas, evidence. So I wind up at a church that's a lot closer to me. And in this church, I've come to realize that they start teaching, these are your brothers, these are your sisters. Now, in my family, we didn't really have a lot of family. We didn't have a mother in our home. It was always my dad and my two brothers and the handful of friends that I had in life. Very, very observant life that I had, because even with family members, I chose who I would socialize with and who I wouldn't. I was able to pick those that I could trust with my heart and my back. And then the rest of them stayed in the circle of affiliates, or people that I knew, whether family or not. But now, as I'm growing in getting to know who God is, I'm being told something different. I have to let my guard down. I have to be vulnerable. I have to open myself up to all the brothers and all the sisters within the church, because they're all your siblings and a part of your body. But at that point, I still haven't learned the fact that even though they sit in a church, doesn't mean they're the church. Doesn't mean they're a part of the body. Doesn't mean that they're sheep. It means, or a lamb. They could be goats. They could be wolves. Okay, there could be so many things, but you have to be open and put yourself out there. And Jesus loved everyone, and that's not the case. The Bible clearly states, that's not the case. I know many people are going to frown upon that because Jesus loves everybody. No, he had enemies. He had enemies. Ask those that he whipped. But so in this, I'm learning, and the more evidence I find, now there's a hunger that's created in me. I'm devouring the Bible, devouring books that teach about the Bible. My reading comprehension, because again, I think I've said in another episode, I wasn't a studious student, so I never really learned reading comprehension. I've never done a book report in my life, but now I'm at a point where I can't get enough. I'm feeding, and I'm just really tearing up all this meal for me, this bread of life, right? I'm tearing it up in whichever way, trying to learn from whichever way. I'm writing notes down. I'm doing things I normally wouldn't do, like the hunger. The hunger. I look back at it and I'm like, man, like my hobby was to learn more. Not because I was in seminary or cemetery or anywhere, or because I had to do it. No, I wanted to. I wanted to get to know him so much. I wanted to find all the evidences. I wanted everything. I wanted to be so full of him that it would pour out of my ears, and I would proclaim, so come out of my mouth as well. It was unbelievable. And the reason I'm so about it, because I'm not there anymore. I'm not. I still read, the Bible. I still read books rarely. I'm not as hungry as I used to be. And I noticed that now. I really am not. So this isn't a, hey, look at me, I'm great. No, the effects that it has had on me. But the one thing is that, let me continue. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. while I was learning and devouring, there was a really good, solid brother. We've talked about him on the show before. Me and brother Kevin, we owe a lot to this man. In fact, you know what? He's well deserving. This man was a true pastor, Ryan Acker. This guy, I don't know where I would be in my Christianity, because even then I still was pensive about church and religion and them wanting money and certain things like this. And this guy did everything just to prove that no, it's not like that. This is what God's about. I remember the first time he told me I should take a class in learning servitude and so on and so forth. I had come at him with a snarky remark about how, so this is where you get your money. You want me to buy your books? Nah, I'm good. He said, oh, that's the only reason? He went and bought the books, brought them to me. He's like, here you go, free books. No one wants your money. I was like, oh. And then he introduced me to the senior pastor, which in this place that we were at, for some of you that know him, don't know him, whatever, celebrity pastor in the East Coast, introduced me to him. I don't know what it was or whatever, but I thought we got along. I later came to find out that no, he hated my guts. But either way, at that point, we were conversating. Him and I had a lot of things interesting regarding sports. We had good conversations of it. He used to tell me that he saw a calling in my life. I've just the things that I knew in the time. I remember being vulnerable in front of him and Ryan about how I just didn't find enough time to read because I worked almost 12 hours and I wanted more and I wanted more. And 1 hour here, 2 hours, it wasn't enough. So they gave me some stuff that I can listen to because at the time I had a job where I spent most of my time in a tow truck. So they really hooked me up, and I'm starting to feel this effect because again they kept pushing. Everyone's your brother. Everyone loves. It's love, 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 and blah blah blah. Open yourself to the body and so on. And little by little, I started changing my process of how I picked and choose people I led into my circle. As me and this senior pastor got close, I kind of didn't pay attention, but it was like high school. For those of you that were popular in high school, you knew that if you were friends with the popular kids, you became popular. If you were not, then you'd have your small little, circle on the side. In movies, those are the geeks, supposedly. Well, let me tell you something. Wasn't only the geeks. Race, there were so many things to divide you in high school, it wasn't even funny. You either were a part of the in crowd or you were and you sold yourself out for popularity. So, I being associates or in my point of view, friends, family. In fact, I saw him as a spiritual father. We asked me to join certain things where he was teaching younger men to be ministry minded, so on and so forth, and that even got a relationship closer. I've been to his house when I was out of work. Those of you that know, every time my wife had a child, I'd lose a job. And by then they kind of got gist of, hey, Natty's pregnant. That means, so-and-so's out of a job. And he would, to help me out, say, hey, why don't you come do this at my house, do that at my house, take care of all this and that. We would share meals there, have intimate conversations. Again, I thought I can put my heart out there. And as just to fast forward a whole lot, because this is a lot of years, I kept hearing after so many years how he feels that there's a call in my life, and I felt that I wanted to go to Puerto Rico and minister there because the only church that I knew that taught the Bible there didn't teach it in Spanish, which kind of threw me off because I can't stand it where people say, I'm called to ministry in a Spanish country, but I don't speak the language. And why wouldn't God send, if God's calling, send someone who does speak the language? Wouldn't that save time? Wouldn't that? I mean, you teach 100 people English or just go there and you already know the language. Like, like it didn't make sense to me. So I felt that was something that God was leading me towards. And I had this conversation. But the problem is that as much as he said he wanted to disciple me, as much as he said he wanted to show me what it was so that I would be ready for when God made it that I'm going. And it was just one class to another class to another class to another class. And what was really irking me about these classes is that they were prolonged. We'd have a book like this thick, right? How many pages? 175 pages. This right here. Actually, this is actually one of the books. Now, so a book this thin, right? And in that, actually, let me put it over here. Excuse me. So, a book that thick, 6 months. I'd read a book like that in a week. I didn't have all these other hobbies. I'm married. I have children. I wasn't like the rest of the people in there that, were young and wanted to live their lives. My life was at home. And when I had free time, I'm already at home, I would read. So I would finish the book in 2 weeks, but I still had to wait 6 months for everyone to catch up. Next class is the same thing. Then we got these like college books and so on and so forth. And I tore those up within months. But no, they wanted me to prolong that for 2, 3 years. It's like, why? Why? Like, why do I have to slow down my hunger? Why do I have to stop feeding myself all this knowledge and all these things just because you want to prolong it so you can say, hey, this is what we're doing? So I disagreed with the method. I didn't disagree with the calling. I disagreed with the method. I couldn't see myself being discipled, but I knew that the calling was getting closer and closer. So I decided I had to go somewhere where someone was going to teach me those practical things, those things about ministry, this and tax that and this and that, all those things, because biblically, not that anyone will ever know everything in the Bible. No one can. It's way above us. Okay. But I can continue to learn those things. Those things are going to take me a lifetime to learn, and I'm not going to get them till glory. But it's the practical things that I can learn here and there. And I wasn't getting those. So we have a conversation about me going to seek discipleship somewhere else because for years I was looking for someone to disciple me. Besides not only him, because I didn't want to take away from his busy schedule, the fact that he's senior pastor. But none of that. Now, at this point, if I showed you social media, if I showed you my phone, if I showed you the people that I was ministering to, the different avenues where I was in ministry, you would think, wow, Carlos has a lot of friends. No. Because at this point that I disagreed with this person, first off, the reason I kept saying I think and I thought in our relationship was an illusion to me. I was lost or on drugs, something. Came to be where I was belittled completely by this person that I saw as a spiritual father and as a friend. That we weren't friends, that I was disrespectful, that I didn't honor his authority, that I didn't this, and I was all these crazy things. I mean, the fact is that if I try to finish out all the things because I still know them verbatim, that's how far and deep they cut me, that I'll probably start crying and then I'll have to like edit out the tears. But so much went on for 15 minutes. Okay, I've never been berated like that ever in my life. And this is someone that after my father had passed, I needed someone to fulfill that role, and I chose it to be this person because I thought that's what they were. After that happened, then came the slander. And then from there, all these people that I thought were friends, that I thought were brothers and sisters, realized that I was no longer the gateway to them and the person they were trying to get to. So they didn't need me anymore. So all that hurt and all that, it was my fault. I let that illusion happen. I created the problem in the sense of where I thought that all this that I've been pushed, even in kindergarten, where they're all my friends, they're all my family. This is why we gravitate towards each other. But I knew, see, this is why I say I disillusioned myself, if that's even a word. I think it's a Spanish word that I try to translate. But either way, so because I remember sitting with a young man that I was mentoring at the time, and people kept coming up to me and saying, "Hi, Carlos, we're praying for your family." At this time is when we were losing Bas. And everyone, these so-called friends and people who loved me and cared for me so much were coming to say hi to me. And then, let me know that they were praying for me. But they didn't say hi to the dude sitting right next to me. He was right there, one chair, boop, right there. They didn't even say hi to him, to the point where I was like, yo, why are you guys ignoring the dude right next to me? Okay, because I was that guy. I was the guy and still am the guy that I'll call it out as it is. No, this dude right here. It's like, yo, like, that guy right there, yeah. What? Say hi. So I knew that this was the type of people that they were. But I blinded myself to thinking, no, these are friends. No, these are family. This is brethren. We call each other. We conversate. We hang out all the time. I'm serving here. They needed someone to fill a spot. They would call me. I was that guy with them. But the minute that relationship, or again, the illusion of what I thought was a friendship, a relationship, completely went its way, because there was no way now I'm going to face this guy after he said all this. It's like, damn. Those people disappeared too. Completely disappeared. And the funniest part about it all, that there was a young pastor that was coming up in that also. And it's funny because this young pastor was finally given a time to teach. And I'm pretty sure it was a lot of jealousy, but they really picked him apart, where he put his hands, where he did this, what he did with that. And he was distraught. I mean, they tore him up, these elders and pastors. Why? Because he was given an opportunity and because he did so good. To the point where he was so desperate to get an honest answer that he went to the guy that he thought, and he was told that didn't like him. And he knew, well, he should have known, it's not that I didn't like him. He later on found out, is I just didn't like the fact that the way he portrayed himself through music, it's not who he was. And I don't like fakeness. And so I liked him as a person because, he's my brother. But I didn't like his music. And I would tell him to his face, yeah, I don't think your music's good. This is why I don't think it is. And then, little by little, he kind of, I guess, got the idea, heard it from other people as well, created different music. I always said he had lyrical talent. He could definitely put words together. It's just the persona that it's portraying isn't. But he came to me, and I remember, in tears. We were in a room, they called it the prayer room, in tears, because they destroyed him. But it was the best sermon I've heard in months. The best I've heard in months come from that pulpit. And we had some celebrity pastors come and teach. And it still was one of the best sermons. So I sat there and I told him, bro, I was completely blessed. The best teaching I've heard in a long time. The way you spoke, the way you taught it, your demeanor, I felt that you even believed it. Because a lot of people sometimes teach and they act like they don't even believe it. But everything about it, it was awesome. I was like, those other people are just hating on you, bro. They're jealous. You're a young kid. I've obviously gifted you with this. Stay away from music. But this is all you, bro. No, I don't agree with all the things. And I mean, listen, these kind of people were picking on the fact that he put his hands in his pockets. Like, what? Shut up. But yeah. So every time he taught, we'd talk about it, and I would give him my honest opinion. In fact, he then created another CD, and I gave him my honest opinion, which I actually appreciated that one so much more because now he wasn't pretending to be something else. He was being himself through the music, and I was able to enjoy it so much more. This was also a guy who freshly married, bought I was going to say hamburger helper, but it's not. It's a handyman special. Had a lot of work to do in this home. And we were all a part of this, again, a young men's group being mentored, supposedly mentored. We watched a video in that one. Yeah, it was called The Truth Project. But either way, so he was asking for people to help him because he's moving in with his bride and they really had no walls, no nothing. I'm not a handyman. I worked a full-time plus job. Plus, I was there for ministry 6 days a week. And I felt so bad that a couple nights I went out and tried to help him as best as I can. I didn't really know much. I know cars. I didn't know houses. He knew a lot, though. I was surprised. But either way, when all this happened, he had already kind of moved on to a different church to be a pastor there. I reached out because I just needed someone to talk to because I was hurt. And instead of being greeted with the same type of, idea, because let me tell you something. When he found out I hated his music, he treated me like whatever, right? And I didn't care because, brothers fight or whatever. It's like, whatever. I don't like your music. You're mad at me because I don't like it. Whatever. I don't care. But at this point in time, I'm thinking, all right, we actually, had some cool conversations and stuff. Now I'm hurting. Now I need someone to speak to. And I reach out to only get ignored, to get a small conversation of, yeah, maybe, one of these days we can get together. I'll give you a call. And then years. And in fact, I'm still waiting for that phone call. It's been over 9 years now that I'm still waiting for that phone call. Yeah. So with that, basically everyone treating me like a leper the minute that disagreement happened. And then little by little, people started telling me what was said. But the one dude, once I, really reached out to him, a couple other people had moved away, so I couldn't even reach out to them because I didn't have information. I felt alone, completely alone. And it was like, wow, where's this family at? And that was the point for me when I just got mad, angry, but I took it out on God. Horribly, I took it out on God. And I didn't read at all. I didn't want to pray. I didn't care anything. And the only time I would talk to God is like, hey, those are the people. Those are the people. And at that time, I was going through so much with work, with this, with that, and life and everything going on. It was to the point where this church, when we were losing our child, and you guys already know, with each child, I lost a job, that even they helped me out a little bit. And they started telling people that I only went to the church. I was at that church, man, for almost a decade. They helped me out twice. And they said that I only went to the church for money. That's all I ever went to the church for. And let me tell you, as a Hispanic, man, we're proud. It's hard for us to accept help. And after humbling myself and allowing it and letting people know that we were struggling, for them to do that even hurt even more. But again, I didn't think of faulty people. I thought of faulty God. I blamed God for it. And it really took my relationship to a point where there was none. I didn't want anything to do with God because of his people. To then go to another place. And in that other place, I was still trying to do healing. The funny part is that I didn't want to talk about all the hurt, and I didn't want to talk about anything. But the guy who was a pastor there hated the pastor even more than I should have, because I didn't hate the pastor. I was just hurt. But man, he hated him even more. So I would let him vent, and I'd be like, oh, goodness gracious, I thought I was mad, and I thought I was bitter for a while. So I go there. This time the problem isn't with me. The problem is with my lady, and there was jealousy and this and that and so many things. But one thing you'll come to learn about me, I don't care what you say about me. Uh, don't mess with my lady. Don't mess with my babies. That's it. Yeah, I don't care what you say, how you say it, whatever it is. Don't mess with my lady. Don't mess with my kids. Because I don't get hurt. I get angry. And then I want to hurt. But problem started with my lady, and I wasn't going to have it. And it wasn't like it was the pastor against my lady. He was sicked on by his lady because of the jealousy, because of this, because of whatever reasons. It was funny because in the time of that, and I'm trying not to blame God, and I'm trying not to do what I was doing. I faked it for a while in the sense of I'm just going to continue to do what I know I'm supposed to do, because it was from one day to another. But in reality, my reading wasn't as much. I was just living out the role. I knew what the role looked like. I did the role. I had the knowledge for all the years that I've studied, but my reading, my prayer, all that was not even there. And sometimes I would just do it because I knew I had to do it. But it still wasn't there. And now we're at this new place, and I'm dealing with some lady being jealous of my lady, some this and that, and my lady's bucking through it as best as she can. My lady was told that she was the reason that I was never made a pastor at the other place. So she's now making herself more out there because that's what they said. She wasn't out there, so she needs to be out there. So all these things that the hurt that we brought from the one place, we kind of came into this place with a different perspective. And now they're bashing us on the other side. And this is going on. And now what I didn't get is, so they were going to ordain me a pastor, but because other elders and other people in the church and pastors and so forth were jealous, they said, we can't, we're just going to make you an elder. I said, well, I didn't want the title in the first place, so I don't really care. But it's kind of messed up that you allowed their jealousy because supposedly God is the one that calls people into pastoralship and eldership, right? God does that. But now you're saying no to God because other people are getting jealous. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I call that out. But whatever. So the more the problems got, I then from there decided I don't want to be an elder here. I don't want to be a part of this mess. This whole disaster, everything that's going on, the elders cutting each other up, backstabbing, all this hateful stuff going on. The pastor's wife hating my wife, causing problems. It was just like, yo, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And it was to the point where now the stuff that I haven't healed from, that I just dug in so that I can minister to others, now that's starting to come back up. And now I'm starting to feel like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing, God? And now over there, I supposedly had family. I supposedly had more brethren. And let me tell you, the first church, when I started going there, maybe 3,000 strong. I probably communicated with, let's say 500, just to be a low number. And the other church was a smaller church, let's say 100 people. I think out of all those people, 9 people. 9 people. And not that we talk every day. A couple of them call me when they need something or advice or whatever the deal may be. Sometimes they remember me and say hi. Some, we're busy people, so they're like my regular worldly friends where, we conversate when we get a moment. And I appreciate those people because they never call me to ask me for a favor. And there's, 3 of them, maybe 3 of them that are actual friends, friends. But to move even further, out of both those places, I can tell you how many I've mentored and helped get to their next level, okay, of whatever. And once they got there, nothing. Because I'm not that guy anymore. And I'm telling you, like, mentorship to the point where they're at my house 24/7. Like, they would go home, come right back. They would go home, work, come back. People that my children call uncles and aunts. not around. The minute I couldn't help them get to the next part or get closer to the pastor or whatever the deal is, whatever their agenda was, I was no longer needed. So again, going through, and I'm naming all these things so that you kind of get the picture of the hurt and the pain and the betrayal. And again, can you trust them with your heart? Can you trust them with your back? But see, at least those people who just bounced when they didn't need me anymore, at least they didn't slander me. These men of God still slandered me. So when I left this second place because I didn't want to be an elder and I couldn't deal with the BS that was going on there, they started calling other churches talking about how I beat my wife. Which is funny because at that church is where I learned the 5 fingers of death. But either way, I'm just saying, it was kind of ironic because as much as I was learning about everything going around, I should have expected exactly what I got. But hey, they're the people of God. They would never do that to you. I think we learn also in the real world, if they did it to them, they'll do it to you, right? So again, I was blinded by what Christianity was supposed to be and not what it actually was. And I remember even more just creeping in, like the bitterness hasn't even hit yet. The hurt is there, but the bitterness has not even been in full effect. I decided I was going to travel all the way out of state to a pastor that I kind of liked his teaching, and I would just travel all the way over there. Actually, let me pause. In between those two churches, I went to a church where no one out of the congregants would accept me till they found out I was Hispanic. There was a couple people who liked me, who got along with me because I was, associates with the pastor. And that was another person I thought we were friends, but I guess not. But there we go, right? I had people in that congregation would not talk to me. I remember that one day, one heard me speaking to my wife in Spanish, and he had to do like a double take. He's like, "Whoa, you speak Spanish?" Like, Puerto Rican. Yeah. It's like, "Oh, my brother, blah, blah, blah." Yeah, and after that, we were good friends. Till again, me and the pastor didn't see eye to eye. So it's a common thing, I guess. And if you want to have friends in the church, make sure you're friends with the pastor, or at least the assumption of friends. I decide, again, to go back to where I was. I'm going to go to a church. And I tell this pastor, because I've met him before, we've talked, certain conferences, let's say. And I went to him and I said, "Listen, I don't want to minister. I don't want to do anything. I'm burnt out. Okay, I'm having so many mental issues. I'm struggling with my relationship with God. I'm not reading. I'm going through so much. I just want to go somewhere where I can sit down, worship God, pray, learn more, be fed, and do some healing. Please do me a favor. I'm not trying to minister. Don't let people know I'm here. Don't. Because now they're going to get all nosy, and then they're going to want to come, and I don't want this whole mess following me here as well. Because the mess followed me everywhere. The slander and this. They would make sure to call everywhere they could to just slander who I am. And I think it's because they knew how much dirt I knew. And they were like, I got to slander him before he tells the truth. So this guy makes the mistake, and I understand him. I really do. Some guy shows up to your church, that he was very prominent or whatever in this other church. Now he's no longer there. What's going on here? So I get him. I'm really not mad at him. I just wish he would have waited a little bit longer. Not the very day. So then I'm not going to go back now because I can't even trust the guy for one day. One day, guy. One day. That's all I asked you for. One day. Now, I asked you to give me some time just to sit and be fed, to do some healing. I needed to heal. No. So at that point, I said, not going anywhere. Maybe I'll start at home. Maybe I'll this. Maybe I'll that. But, and this is what I warn you guys about. This is why I know that the church is going to hurt. I know. Okay, I know. It sucks. We don't expect it. We don't feel, okay, that it's ever going to happen because these are Christian people. These are people who follow the Bible. These are people who love God, supposedly. But see, it's okay to get hurt, but take your hurt to him. Don't take it out on him. I didn't do that. I completely stopped anything and everything. I went back to my worldly friends. I went back to the world in the sense of not that I went and lived, how I used to and do all the crazy stuff, but to the point where don't talk to me about God. I remember the times that when people would try to evangelize to me, I would destroy them for fun. Because I learned so much about God that I also learned a lot of the arguments. And even though I didn't believe in those arguments, I knew them very well. And I knew that not many people studied or thought of these things the way I had to, because I had to prove that the Bible wasn't going to hustle me. I wasn't going to be hustled. So I learned so much, and I learned the good, but I also learned a lot of the arguments that people don't know how to argue against. And I would expose it. I don't know how much damage I did during that time, but I mean, I would make people cry whenever they would try to bring up Jesus. I would destroy it in every fashion of argument that I could. And here's a quote. The best, okay, atheists were once Christians. Okay. The best debaters on atheism, okay, or against God, period, because that's what an atheist is someone who's against God. They were once Christian. They were also once hurt by the church. So then they argue against the things that they know because they already know that so many people don't study their word. So I would have people come evangelize to me, and God, forgive me. I still ask you for forgiveness. So much that, I went berserk. I would hear someone talk about God on just the glimpse of that, and I would destroy whatever they were saying, even though I knew it was true. Even though I knew what they were saying was true. Even though I could argue their point for them to a point where, okay, but I also knew how to fight against it. And if they didn't have biblical knowledge or studied a little bit deeper, it was going to destroy them. I would see evangelists evangelizing in the street, and I would purposely go to destroy that. Any ministry, because I was angry with God. Angry that I would make myself, after I grew up not being that guy, not being vulnerable, after learning in second grade, people suck. Pick your friends. Okay, pick your family. Well, not pick your family, but at least choose who you're going to associate with. Choose. Be careful who you pick. I gave all that up because I was told it's what I had to do. I knew it. And man, I knew it. And I was hurt. Hurt people hurt. And I couldn't hurt them because they gave two bits about me. So I took it out on God. I did a lot of damage. To the point, I remember this one young kid was asking me to he was asking me to go to like a men's retreat or something with him and blah, blah, blah. And then years later, not even years later, months later, the church did the same thing to him. And then, anyways, I'm not laughing at the fact that he left. I think he's got a decent relationship with God now. But it happened to him too. And then we kind of conversated on the fact that, yeah, church people suck. Not Christians, not real Christians, church people. But in that time, it was, I didn't hear from God. I didn't want to hear from God. I didn't want to pray. I didn't read. These books were in a box somewhere in a closet because I could care less. I could, I, I had beef with God, you know, and I took it out on God, and I made sure I wanted to prove to God that me and him were now enemies because he allowed it. Okay. He asked something of me. I gave it to him. I put my heart out there just to get it mauled. I was angry. I was hurt. I think I've said that enough times. So, a couple months later, actually, no, 4 years later, um, little by little, I, I, I was, excuse me, in a period of 4 years, I should say. Towards the third, fourth year, little by little, I started reading again because I knew something was missing, and I don't know, I don't know why I decided, hey, let me start reading my word again. A lot of things were going wrong, so I started praying. It's like, hey, if you can help me, like you helped me before, like a lot of stuff is going wrong here. But my prayer would always end with, but I don't even know how you could. I've made myself your enemy. I wanted to prove to you that I was your enemy. And so every prayer and every time I would read, it'd be, I don't expect, I know what I did, and I treated you like this. And it was a lesson that I slowly learned that why, oh, why were you blaming me, blaming God? Like that's what I learned in that time of just fighting God at every moment I could. Slowly, took 4 years, but I learned very, very, very quickly after the 4 years. It's not God's fault. It's not. People suck. Not everyone in the church is his. And I know I've read it in the Bible before, but it never stood out to me the way it was. And so little by little, I started praying, started, kind of putting myself more in the space, I guess, of how do I rekindle my relationship with Christ? I know his grace. I know his mercy. I know all these things. You ask for forgiveness and yeah, fine. But my relationship with Christ isn't so cheap that I can blaspheme, okay? That I can destroy ministry. I can destroy someone evangelizing. I can purposely do things to hurt God. And I'm just going to say sorry and forget about it. My mindset was, while I was yet sinner, he died for me. That was whatever years before, right? He forgave me. Everything is clean. After knowing all of that, after building a relationship, after getting to really know his characteristic, I then turned, and I kind of understood the prodigal son now. At that point, I kind of understood it, but I still wasn't ready to accept it that easily. I wanted not to earn, because you can't earn that with him, but I wanted the evidence to show, God, I'm sorry. I literally took everything out on you. And it's kind of like, because I've done so much counseling throughout the years, you have the husband that goes through hell at work and he takes it out on his lady. That's not right, That's work. Your lady. There's an intimacy here. She's got nothing to do with that. And that's what I did. I did it to God, though. So as the healing process came, I really felt at that time that I needed to really focus on feeding my family. The interesting part is that while I was going through all of that, my wife never parted from God. My wife and her relationship with God just continued to go. My kids, they would all do it together. We just weren't doing it at a building. Their curriculum was based on a lot of things from God, and I wouldn't mess with that. I wasn't going to mess with my kids' relationship or my wife's relationship. My relationship was a problem. Though, where it did become their issue is I was more irritable, more this, more that. I didn't really want to sit for the conversations of helping them. I would tell them to go to their mother and let her teach them, whatever book they were learning that time. I didn't want anything to do with it, but I didn't tell them to stop or my family can't do this. I don't want this in my house, blah, blah, blah. None of that. But again, I come into the realization I'm trying, because I say trying because I'm trying to show God that I really am repentant and trying to live that way. We decided, maybe we'll start. And I remember years before at the first place that I was at, I had told someone that if they ever had a church, I would visit it. So instead of doing what I thought God at that point was telling me, feed my family, do this, people call it a home church. I was like, oh, here's a way out. And I went, and yep, same thing. I don't know. I go to a church and it's like, yo, that guy's a worker. That guy knows the Bible. That guy this, that guy that. And all of a sudden they start plugging me in places. And it's funny because a small Bible study group started from that. Again, just me trying to minister. And I kept saying, I don't want to minister. But either way, helping here, helping there, yada, yada, all this. All of it. Oh, everybody loved me. Even the pastor was telling everybody, make sure you show this family love because he's been, because I told him everything I went through, why I'm going to be pensive, why I'm not going to jump into things. But I still did. I still put my heart out there. I still put my back, put my trust in it for the same effect. Only this one didn't take 4 or 5 years. This one took 1 year, a year and a half. I started to realize, you know what? It's not the time. I can't. No, I want to get out. COVID hit, and it was like, this guy's going to need more help, blah, blah, blah. But, and I stayed a lot longer than I should have. But where are my friends? There's a couple still left. I know that the slander was there. Okay. I don't even want to go into detail. But the backstabbing, the slandering, all that was there. And for the first time ever, I wanted to go and defend myself. And I was so about going there and making sure that the truth was told so that everyone knew it. And then I just remembered what I just got done healing from. And not because I was there, before I got there. It's like I put myself out there again. But see, here's the difference between then, what I learned, and then what happened. My relationship with Christ was now not based on a building. My relationship with Christ was not based on church people. Because within months of being at this new place, right, it was, wow, we see the calling, we see this, we see that, blah, blah. It was so funny because while I was in good graces, I was put on one of the leadership team, let's say. But when I disagreed and decided, not going to stick here. Nope, sorry, guy. I'm never coming back again. All the slander started. Why not just let me leave? Why not just he left? I don't know. I don't know why he left. Well, because people would speculate. And again, you thought that I was going to, same as the other ones, slander you. Instead, you slandered me. So you wanted to be first, just in case you didn't want to be discredited or for me to say bad things about you. But, hey, the difference is that, again, being there, started ministries, so many relations, so many people. Oh, my brother. Oh, we love you. Oh, this. Oh, all these things. it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be here no more. Oh, you're slandering me. Yeah, that's what every other pastor did. Oh, yeah, okay. And I move on. See, then all that hurt and all that bitterness and everything, and don't get it twisted. The hurt is still there. Okay. My reading and praying and all these things I don't want to say never, but up to this point, they haven't been anywhere near what they used to be. The damage has been done. Mentally, physically, it's already taken its course. I'm still healing from the sense of trying to get back to my relationship with God the way it used to be. I'm still dealing with that. But the bitterness from the first couple times to this last one was just the sense of, am I going to obey God and what he's been telling me, and just feeding my family, starting a Bible study here at the house, okay? Bible study online and all these other little things where it's not in a building, okay? Am I going to be faithful to the people that are in my circle of influence, those that actually reach out to me, those that actually care about me? Am I going to feed them? Am I going to be continuing to help shepherd them, because I'm not their shepherd, God is, and just continue to minister to them without needing a building? And that I've learned. So in that, it creates the hunger where I'm reading, but I'm still not where I should be. The first couple of times, yeah, the bitterness, the hurt turned into bitterness, the anger took it out on God. But again, what I wanted you guys to learn, just because you learn the lesson, just because you fix your relationship with God, doesn't mean that you're going to go to a building. And for the guy, the pastor that says, oh, you should tell people the good stuff, I tell you what, tell me one pastor that didn't slander me, and I'll tell you the good stuff. Tell me one pastor that didn't slander my wife, and I will tell you the good stuff. Tell me at least 2% of the people who acted as if they were my family. 2%. Shoot, 1%. Give me 1% of those people that said they were family, that they were brethren, that we loved each other. My doors are still open to them. My phone hasn't changed. Tell me one of them that still reaches out to see if I'm alive without needing anything. 1%. You want the good things about the building called the church? No. But the church, the true church of God, it's everlasting. Those are people who still call and reach out and say, hey, Carlos, are you hurt? In fact, the funniest thing is the ones that were called rough around the edges, that people would say, I don't know if they're a Christian, are the ones that mostly hear me out, call me, reach out, break bread with me. And here's the thing. I still talk to some people, younger people, old, whatever, very few of them, because we are busy people. But I'm talking about people who actually care enough to pick up the phone, text me. I'd like to know. I'd really like to know. You want me to say the good stuff. Find the good stuff. Find it. And I'll talk about it. Hey, here's some of the good stuff. Oh, wait, no. Oh, they taught me a very valuable lesson. Pick and choose your friends. Don't call everyone your friend or your brother. If you can't trust them with your heart, if you can't trust them with your back. And when people do things like people, don't blame God. That's the good in it. Because see, after I left that place and I said, you know what, God, I am sorry. I am sorry, God, because I know you were calling me to do something else. And I took the lazy way out and I went and I ministered, hey, 5, 6 days a week, whatever was needed, teaching this, that, oh, anything they needed. Because that was simpler than taking responsibility for starting a Bible study in my home for my children, for my wife, for whoever may come. That was easier than getting back on social media, because I was off of social media for God knows how long, and try to create, a group that I could minister to. Not as a pastor, not as a church, but hey, you have questions, I want to be there for you. Hey, you need prayer, I want to be there for you. Hey, you want me to point you to, this and this and that, because I'm still not against people going to a church building. It's just not for me. And I've come to realize, not only through here, but through online and many places, it's not for a lot of people. We fellowship online. We pray for each other online. We study the Bible together online, because a lot of them are spread out through the country, some in the world. I freaking talked to someone from Germany. Thank God for Google Translate. But either way, all this was supposed to be something that I should have listened to before. But see, I was so busy. Let me tell you, in the last 2 years, man, God has been so awesome that our relationship has been getting, it's not the same as it used to be, but man, it's definitely different and new. There's a new fire in me. I still want some of that old fire back, but it's a new fire in me. So you guys wanted where this whole passion for spiritual abuse is? That's why. I can only tell you how many times people use God to manipulate me into doing ministries I didn't want to do. I'll tell you a funny one, okay? And it's funny because when I say this, people are like, huh? Okay, so I don't like kids. I don't like kids. Yes, I know I have 7. I love my kids. I don't like kids. And it's not all kids I don't like. I don't like kids with no respect. I don't like kids that haven't been taught how to be a child and how to treat an adult, how they want to run around. You can't say stop that because they cry. Like, these kids today, they drive me insane. So I would always say I will never, ever, 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 ever do children's ministry. Never. Well, I did 2 years of children's ministry, and I didn't miss one weekend. All because they didn't have anyone. That was there's no one wants to do it. No one, blah, blah, blah. No one. We need help. Blah, 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 blah. And you serve everywhere else. Can you help out? It was the only day that I wasn't at church was Saturday. And I said, fine. I will go. I'll do it. But see, like everything I do, if I'm going to do something, I give it my best. I do my all. It was funny because I had the best class. I mean, it was hard at first. It was very hard at first because I had to lay down the law. But it was awesome afterwards. Once the kids learned, hey, don't mess with the bald guy. Yeah, they were real cool. They really helped me. Wow, man, it was amazing. It was interesting. It was amazing. Most of their parents didn't like me because obviously the kids would rat them out, and then I debate with either way. But those kids love me. I miss those kids. They're not even kids anymore, man. I saw a couple of them before. I was like, wow, you're a grown person. Yeah, once those kids were well behaved, everything went fine. They learned about respect very quickly. And I did 2 years, and I didn't miss one Saturday because I didn't feel that I had permission to miss because they needed me that bad. Even the weekend after my daughter passed, 3 days later, I was there. I was there to minister 3 days later because they needed me. And if they, the church, needed me, I don't want to let God down. I was so ingrained into ministering and putting myself out there to make Daddy God proud. Okay. And the person that I thought was my spiritual father. Proud that this guy's got it. This guy understands servitude, hands to the plow. Okay. He doesn't care if you put your hands on the plow or not. He's plowing without you. Or, hey, whatever the deal may be. I was that guy. And then to take that out on God. Okay. The manipulation, everything that I allowed. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I know what it cost me. I know what it robbed me from. And then the good thing is that after I healed, after everything was okay, and I put myself out there again thinking, hey, this will be different. And it wasn't. It was even worse. It was even worse. I've never seen something so disgusting on the spiritual abuse form. Never. Even to the point where me and a brother, I've known this brother for years. For years I've known this brother. And not very close at first, but I admired the kind of man he was, because he's still alive. Admired it. And I'm like, look at his family, look at who he is. Like, I want to be him when I grow up. All right. But he didn't notice because we didn't have that type of relationship. I just knew of him. But I aspired to that. I even wanted to ask this man to disciple me. But he had so many people that he was dealing with, I didn't want to put more on his plate. Then I found out his lady was going through something. I definitely didn't want to bother him then. Solid dude, man. I had love for this dude without even knowing him. Because I seen the type of man he was, man. He glowed the glory of God every time I seen him minister. A man's man, but sensitive at the same time. Which was amazing to me. Later on now, in this new place, or last place, ministering together, and I thought I saw something, right? And I approached the person and I said, hey, why did you do this? Actually, approached me, why did you say this? I was like, because you did this. He said, no, I didn't do that. I was like, bro, I saw you. And that's what I saw. He said, no, I didn't, maybe I was fidgeting, whatever. I didn't realize, I didn't know. He apologized. I was like, well, listen, if you didn't do it, don't apologize. All is good. Hugged it out, moved on. I moved on. Someone asked me about what I said on the sermon. And I said, well, this is what happened, but yada, yada, yada. He said he didn't. I moved on. Everything's great. Everything was great, so I thought. But the person who asked only wanted to use that for fuel to create a division. We already talked about it. We already dealt with it. Funny thing is that even before that, he was already trying to pin us, because at this place, the spiritual abuse was that he didn't want people to be close to each other, or at least have a closer relationship than him and that person. He wanted everyone to gravitate towards him, and then you can kind of leave the scraps for everyone else. So he would naturally pin everyone against each other. What do you think about this person? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you want to do with this? What do you want with that? All of that. Even to the point of, hey, I want you to teach like that person that you were talking about before, and I want that person to teach more like you. Why? That's going to create problems between these two, because him and I are two different people. We serve the same God, but we're different parts of the body. And granted, I would love to be more like that man. I wouldn't want that man to be more like me, though. If anything, I need to be learning from him. He doesn't need to be like me. Okay, I'm abrasive. He is the balance that we all need. When to be a man, when to be abrasive, but when to be sensitive. When to be calm. when to be loving, and when to lay down the hammer. He's the perfect balance of it. Why would you want to destroy that and turn it to me? We don't need to teach like each other because God's created different tools for different reasons. I did have a whole lot to learn from this man. He didn't need to be like me. That was the first point where you try to create division, and I know it. And then because you couldn't, you hit a weak point or something new, and you use that to slander me and to create division. And I think that it didn't work because we still rarely talk. I mean, I just came to realize they live like 3 minutes from here. But either way, other people that we were supposedly family and friends, only one. And let's face it, some of them, you know what? I had a Bible study. We met every day, every other day, but we hung out every day. That's done. By his doing, by not his doing, time, girlfriends, this, that, all that. Shoot, I think one of them is mad at me and I don't even know why. I don't, but okay. But all of that was purposely designed for division. Was it jealousy? Was it this? I don't know. I know what he did wrong because there was so much more, and I'm not going to put that out there. Even when people called me trying to find out why, I still didn't say anything. Those who knew. I did talk to one brother, and he kind of got 60%. The ones that didn't know, I didn't tell anyone to stop going. In fact, I told them to please go. My beef with him is something else. And some had their own beef and went their way. I still tell people to go to the first place because there are good things there. And not the third place, though. I would never do that to anyone. But even I don't tell anyone to go there, but I don't tell anyone to leave either. Again, I've been through so much of the spiritual abuse, of just personal abuse, of all these things, hurt. So to the original question, to the original everything, that's pretty much the testimony of what I went through and why I'm so passionate about spiritual abuse in the church, taking out the things of the church on God. And I've said it. I went through all that in the beginning to then learn that this last time. Because I'm not going to say never, but I definitely don't want to put myself in a position to put my heart out there just to get it trampled, to expose my back. And I expose my back by making your burdens my burden, by being in ministry and trying to do everything and anything that's needed of me. I expose my back to counsel, to hear people out, to be there when they need me, just so that they can stab me in the back as soon as I'm not needed. I'm not going to do it. But the first time I said I wasn't going to do it, I took it out on God. I made it seem as if it were God who did it or God who allowed it. So he's to blame. But you see, this time around, I learned it's not God who did it. God may have allowed it, but it was to teach me, am I going to obey the fact that I have to be there for my family? This is the first time in a long time of Christianity that I've been home to minister to my children rather than out there ministering to everyone else's children and everyone else's parent and being there to fill spots that no one wanted to fill because they were churchgoers. They didn't care about serving the body. This is the first time I don't have to leave my house at 3 o'clock in the morning to hear someone who's going through a breakup or something stupid. I just needed to minister. It's the first time in a long time that when I get up in the morning, you know what? I have my prayer list. I pray for the people that are still family. I pray for the people that are not a part of my family and those that I've gotten to know throughout the years, whether they care or not, still pray for them. If you were on my list, I've been writing in this one book for God knows how long. If you're on that list, I pray for you. Doesn't matter. I still can say these last 2 years, man, I've picked up hobbies. I've been able to enjoy life a little bit more. I was so consumed by being there for everyone else that I was too busy to be there for my family. And I was also too busy to even enjoy life. And now the balance, I've learned the balance. And it came with a lot of hurt, but I've learned the balance. I picked up hobbies, as you guys follow me on social media, fishing, golfing. I mean, I've always shot guns, but shooting, podcasting. I get to spend more time with my family because they get to do those things with me. I've been able to actually teach them the Bible rather than send them to a Sunday class that they just basically make them repeat the same garbage over and over again. So they actually get to learn about the Bible. I get to minister to my wife, truly water her with the word. And I get to minister to people online who went through similar things. And again, one thing I want you guys, and I say this so many times throughout different episodes. People are people. They're broken. Some are going to hurt you. Some are going to betray you. It sucks. It's okay. But don't take it out on God. The time you lose with God is going to be the only thing you regret in life. Is to give people the satisfaction, that they took that time away from you and God. It's not worth it. It's not. And listen, again, it hurts. Okay, I now the stuff that I went through. It hurts. I get it. It's why Gandhi said if it wasn't for now, and I'm not saying Gandhi was a good guy at all. I'm not saying that. The dude had issues. Not the time. Talk about it later. But Gandhi himself said, I'd be a Christian if it weren't for Christians. Number one reason people don't go to church, Christians. Number one reason people don't believe the Bible, Christians. Okay. The best atheists were once Christian. But I don't want you guys to take it out on God. It's not his fault. Learn. It's okay to pick and choose who you fellowship with. It is okay. And for those of you that want to do home church, don't let liars tell you that if you don't go to a building, you're forsaking the fellowship. Because that word fellowship doesn't mean building. Or, forsake the gathering of the brethren. It doesn't say you have to gather in a certain building. It just says you have to gather. So I'm not saying don't start a community of other believers that you can trust, that you can lay your heart out and expose your back and know that neither one of them is going to get stabbed. It's okay to do that. But again, for those that have asked, there it is. For those of you that didn't know, there it is. Please don't ask me for details. Please don't ask me for extra things. Don't ask me for names. That's not what this is about. And I, quite frankly, don't care to give it because I'm done with it. I want you guys, again, to learn. Don't blame God. Let people take responsibility for themselves. If they don't, that's between them and God. If they do, well, hey, if you find it in your heart to forgive, amen. If you don't, that's between you and God. But regardless what people do, your relationship with Christ has to be solid ground. And here's the thing, right? For those of you that wanted to know, where does all this passion for spiritual abuse come from, for all this and that, and yada, 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 right? My foundation with my relationship with Christ, right? The rock that I stand on. There's this saying of, if God feels distant, did you move or did God, right? And the answer is I moved, right? God's the firm foundation. I moved from that foundation. So it's not to say that people can push God away from you, but they can push you off that foundation. Don't let people do that. Stand strong on that foundation. And when people upset you, because they're gonna, and the church hurts you, it's gonna, okay, cling on to him a lot more. Hold on to him a lot more. I know that certain people are going to say, oh, well, I'm really not bitter, but I hate church people. That's bitterness. Listen, regardless of what I've been through, regardless of whatever it is and the people I've had to deal with, I'm okay. Now, a couple years ago, I'm okay. It's been years now. The hurt isn't going to go away because it's a reminder. It's that thorn in the flesh, it's that reminder. Don't do it again. No, it's just a reminder, okay? But it's not going to move my relationship with Christ. I'm not getting off this rock. No matter how much they would love to hear me step off the rock, okay? Listen, I know God's got me, and I'm not going to let go of him for anyone. So guys, don't do the same. Don't let them win. Let's continue to work together as we've been, just dealing with who God wants us to be today. Let's forget about tomorrow in the sense of let's not let it affect our future. Not forget about it so that we don't learn from it. God bless you guys.
Thank you for dropping by. Please remember to subscribe, to share, like, and to catch the next one.